Is David Ortiz a Hall of Fame player in your mind?
He won't be. Won't be for a couple of reasons. He's won the World Series. He's been the leader of the Red Sox. Yeah. But that's more based on, Hall of Fame's not based on, the NFL tends to look very closely at your team's achievements. Baseball's not about that. I mean, they take people like Ernie Banks. He never won a championship. They don't. I vote on the Baseball Hall of Fame. I voted for years on the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I vote for the Basketball Hall of Fame. I think I'm an expert in this area. That baseball is based on your personal achievements. That's about all. Big Papi's not going to get it because there was too much of a hint, too much of a threat. He was found to have violated the PEDs. I think he's going to fall into that abyss with everybody else that's ever been associated with
Well, there's
PEDs.
one other big thing he's got going against him. He's been a DH. There are no DHs in the Hall of Fame. And there are voters who are reluctant to vote for guys who were DHs.
You know
because
why?
they weren't well-rounded enough players.
Yeah, and the reason for that is those stupid seam heads who, the purity of the game, those seam heads, and you know who I'm talking about, you're out there watching. Because Jim Wright's belonged in the Hall of Fame, don't you think? Or do you think, let me put it another way, that's a bad interview way. Do you think Jim Wright's
He was a borderline guy for me, but I thought when he played he was a feared hitter, and I thought he had a pretty good run. So yeah, I have no problem with him being in the Hall.
Was Don Baylor Hall of
And
Famer?
he also wasn't a DH his whole career.
But most of his career was. He spent the last 12 years. I mean, he was.
The big debate is going to be Edgar.
Nobody starts as a DH last.
The big debate is Edgar.
Become a DH.
Well, these days they do.
Who?
Guys started. How about Edgar Martinez, who almost immediately became a DH?
He was a third baseman, a first baseman. When he
It
was
wasn't
in
long
Seattle,
before he became a full-time DH.
Nobody starts. You keep talking about Rosario. Nobody starts as a DH. You become a DH when you can't play in the field. You think A-Rod, if he could play in the field, would be a DH this year? He's going to be a DH, supposedly, because he can't play third, can't play short anymore. All he can do is yell when there's a pop fly and make people drop it. All he can do is rat out his cousin all the time.
All right, so we're in agreement. David Ortiz probably will not go in. I think he'll get some votes on the East Coast, but I think altogether, because the PED whispers and because DH probably won't make it.
Sure.
He's got the numbers.
And anybody
he's got a lot. He's got some better numbers than a lot of guys in the Hall of Fame.
Anybody that's been whispered about, they fall down. What's going to have to happen for a lot of guys like Big Papi is they're going to have to wait till people like me die. When I say people like me, because I have the personal argument with myself about putting everybody in.
Who wins that argument?
Who wins that one? It depends on the day and the clearness of the mirror.
All right, that last segment brought to you.
You were wrong. You remember when who's the fairest of them all? I change my mind about that pretty constantly. I do. I mean, I go back and forth with me, not with anybody else. I go, just put them all in. I mean, you put in people that didn't play against Latinos. You put in white players who didn't play against African Americans. You put in people that played during World War II when most of the players weren't any good. I mean, there are a lot of pro and con issues involved. And the thing about it is, I think I have just enough time left to make a firm decision. But it doesn't really matter because there's so many other guys that won't put them in that my vote is not going to change it.
Yeah, probably not. Hey, that last segment brought to you by John Elway Cadillac at Park Meadows. That's Colorado's #1 Cadillac.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on elwaydealers.com.